Hey guys, so we just got done skinning this otter out. I did a quick video on that, the baculum, the glands, removing the skull, that sort of thing. We're going to go over fleshing this now. Generally speaking, all you're going to need is a knife, particularly on the tail to use, possibly a soft fleshing knife. If you're new to fleshing, that sort of thing, it can kind of help keep you from putting holes in the hides. And then also a hard draw knife with a sharp edge on it. And this is primarily what I'll be using on the otter, especially an older male, that sort of thing. Their hides are pretty thick, not as easy to cut through as some other animals out there, especially coyote, fox, that sort of thing. So a little bit more forgiving. And you're going to need the sharp, hard steel to get through some of the gristle, especially on the back when you're starting it out. Another thing you're going to need will be a fine sawdust. We're going to use quite a bit on this. Otters are really, really greasy, so you want to try and keep all that out of the fur as much as possible. So to start with, we're starting up at the head. We're going to start right between the eyes, kind of thing. This is my first otter I've fleshed in a couple of months now, so I'm going to try and take her nice and slow. As you're working, keep rubbing all the junk off your knife. That way you don't have to push extra hard to get through some of it. You're less likely to cut holes. Once you got the top done, or the front done there, move off to the side. Again, starting right by the eye holes, kind of thing. The ears, we left little tiny ears when we skinned. So you're going to take most of that cartilage out right here in the fleshing stage. And when I'm fleshing, for the most part, I'm pushing straight down. But when I get into tough stuff like this where I want to cut, you can actually see where I turn it kind of on an angle a little bit. And I'll put pressure right where I want it. And just give it kind of a slice. I'm kind of going on a little bit of a slicing motion. And that cuts through the really bad stuff there, the thick stuff. So don't worry too much about the sides of the face. You can clean up that once it's on the board. Just focus on all the main stuff out here. So anything up around the nose, I could have came up a little bit farther, I see, but for the most part, if it's up above the eyes, don't worry too much about it. You can take that off once it's on the board. It's easier to put a hole in the hide right now than it is once it's on the board and you're dealing with your skinning knife again. And you can see I'm kind of slicing down on an angle there. But once I've got it started, I'm just pushing straight down now. And then this is that gristly stuff on the back. So So again, I'm doing little slices while I'm pushing. It's important to note, I sprayed this otter down. It only took 8 or 9 minutes to skin it out, so it stayed dry during that whole skinning process. Or sorry, stayed wet during that whole skinning process, or damp. So I didn't spray it down before I threw it on the beam, but if this hide was dried right out again, I'd be worried about that singeing. So I would wet it down or dampen it down as I'm fleshing or before I put it on the beam. Usually before, but if it's really dry, say I had the fans on in here and it was plus 20, I would probably wet the tail area down, especially at least once while fleshing, depending on how long it takes. Just trying to keep it damp, that way it's not going to singe on us. Again, this area, don't worry about getting right up to the lip. You're going to probably take that off with a knife anyway. You can clean it up really quick and easy. So no point in putting holes in your hides right now. Be really careful coming up to these leg holes. You'll get uneven leather, and if it catches the draw knife, you'll just put a hole in it. So got to keep everything nice and tight as you're going down. Always keeping the edge of that knife clean. The armpits are very thin, like every other hide, so do watch when you're going down there. You're not pushing near as hard as you were up above. And same with this area here, just around the front arms. Not pushing a ton of weight on here, just enough to get the job done. Once we get past this stage, it goes really quick. Especially on the males, you aren't worried about any nipples and that sort of thing like you would on a female. I'm starting to do more slicing while I push. Not a ton, but as soon as it starts hanging up, just keep a little slice to help encourage it to keep going. The closer you get down to the groin area, the thinner the hide is getting. So start taking some of the pressure off the knife. You're not pushing as hard. Still slicing. Oh, I think I just nicked right there. That might be the penis hole. See, there's a bite right here. It's like a tooth mark and another tooth mark, so kind of looks like maybe a beaver grabbed them. Another little hole there from it. There's another nick there. This guy's been scrapping. Ahead of myself there. So here's where the penis goes in. Now if this was really milky and fatty and that sort of thing, I would have put sawdust on this already, but it's not too bad actually. So I'm just going to keep going as is. Watch digging into your board or put good nicks in it with the hard steel. Now we're getting down to the tail area. And my board is pretty messy already. So I don't want to get too much of that on my hide. I'm going to cut a pile of this excess fat off, and then we'll work on the tail really quick. I find it really easy to do the right side of the tail because I'm right-handed. I have a hard time doing the left with the fleshing knife. Just gonna get the bulk of it off. Like I said, we'll switch to a skinning knife. So if you're really good with the fleshing knife, you could keep going, doing it the same way we've been fleshing this all off till now. This is, I think, my third otter of the year. Second or third, anyway. So I don't do a ton of these with the hard steel. I do enough to get or stay familiar with it, but I'm not like some of you guys down south, you know, catching 20, 30 otters, or the guys up north in Alaska catching piles and piles of otter. So any spots you missed, just fix them up with a knife, just like so. And as we're going down, I could have got that with the fleshing knife. That stuff wasn't hard at all. But generally speaking, it's right here and right here that I tend to mess with the knife. So all we're going to do, open it up so it lays flat, and just skin it out like so. Right there. That's one side. Like I said, I find it easier to do one side than the other. Just, you know, it's easier to hold the knife in a certain direction or that sort of thing because I'm right-handed. I'm sure left-handed you guys have an issue with the left side. if you really wanted to. Scrape a bunch of this fat off, grease off. Just going down the tail like that. So that's how you flush an otter. We'll take another video here and put this guy on board.